Thank you, Rahul, for being with us this evening, and thank you everyone for being with us for this very important event, which we thought at Fortune we must have in Bengaluru, as I said in my initial address. Well, we have with us Rahul Chari. PhonePe really and Rahul need really no introduction because they already have 50% of the UPI transactions, right? So whatever you do, somewhere or the other, you will get into the PhonePe ecosystem. And that explains his very contented smile as well. So Rahul, first and foremost, you know, PhonePe, we covered your story recently in the Unicorn special. And I think, you know, it's a very compelling story because you know, from how you set it up, and then now you're part of the very big Walmart ecosystem. But first, let me take us back to how it all started, how you all met, and how you set up what today has now morphed into PhonePe. Tell us a little bit about the early days.
Saurav, thank you so much for having me at this wonderful event. Super excited to be here, and thank you for covering us in the Unicorn special, genuinely appreciate it. I think the genesis of PhonePe, so we are three founders, Samir, Burzan, and myself. We go back a long way. Samir and I have known each other now for more than 30 years. We studied in undergrad together in Bombay. Burzan, Samir knows him for more than 20 years. I know him now for more than 16, 17 years. We did our first startup together back in 2009, which was in a completely different space.
Yes.
That startup got acquired by Flipkart, then we worked together in Flipkart. Genesis of PhonePe itself is in what we've seen as Flipkart as being both a boon and a bane, right? And went down to the conviction that ultimately if we are to transition into being a true digital economy and realize the potential that everybody keeps talking about as GDP, multi-trillion-dollar economy, etc., solving for money exchange at the most primitive level was the huge infrastructure bottleneck that we saw. And I'll give you examples about it. COD, cash on delivery in Flipkart. Huge innovation to buy the trust factor to even shop online when you're not able to touch the goods. But at scale, to be able to handle cash is a nightmare. Right? I mean, when you're selling a 50,000, 40,000 rupees phone and the delivery agent is collecting that money, him carrying that money back to the hub, then all the money that's coming there getting deposited to a bank, safety issues, counterfeit notes. So money management, as we know, has a huge cost and a risk to it, right? Similarly, in the first Big Billion Day, we've had, so I remember in 2014 when we went for this ambitious plan of creating like the Singles Day event in China.
Yes.
We were super excited. We knew that we'll bring in a lot of scale. We went to all the banks and the payment gateways to say that, you know what, there's going to be a fair amount of concurrency, simultaneous transactions, checkouts are going to go through the roof. And what we heard back was that, look, we support Tatkal booking on IRCTC and trains. How can you be bigger than that? And we also said that that's fair. Tatkal is really large. What really happened was in the first 15 minutes of that event, all payment gateways crashed. And there was just chaos, right? So I think a bunch of these things, digital transactions didn't take off because of microtransactions not being possible, made us realize that solving payments and just primitive money exchange at an infrastructure level is the huge unlock. When we talk about inclusion, that's the huge unlock. And that was the genesis of starting PhonePe, really.
Yeah, that's quite fascinating. And now you are clearly the leading player in, and UPI, and as even the Prime Minister has said multiple times, has become a sort of a toast of the world. You know, the whole world is looking at UPI, the DPI, entire ecosystem, how they can learn from it. Countries have come up and asked in the G20 as well how they can learn from it. Now, in a sense, you know, your payments is basically where you have become an undisputed leader. So what's next? What's the growth plan for the future as you sort of enter new realms?
I think payments itself, yes, we celebrate the success of UPI and payments at a huge scale. But while I'll talk about what's next and what else that we are looking at as a company and what are the opportunities for us as a potentially a fintech ecosystem.
Right.
I think payments itself is not done. I mean, there are a lot of parts. So if you look at a very macro level, we now have probably two sets. One very large set of users who are now digitally native on payments, but there's still a huge opportunity to deepen that relationship, right?
So cross-selling.
I don't think it's just cross-selling. I think the number of use cases where you can use payments can still go deeper,
Okay.
right? Like transit, unorganized
Yes,
transit,
yes.
right? You go into tier 2 and beyond, the number of shared tuk-tuks, private buses, etc., and all accepting digital payments, making that much more formal than the informal model of it. I think there are many such opportunities where you can deepen the relationship of payments itself beyond cross-sell and
Interesting, yeah.
upsell. And then there's the other set that is still not come on to payments. There's a stubborn set that continues to be on a feature phone,
Yes.
right? And it is our responsibility as an ecosystem to even bring them on to digital payments, irrespective of whether they're going to go into smartphones or not, right? And that is something that we are looking at. So feature phone is something that we want to do. Now, there is always this question about when you take a business lens to it. Is there a lifetime value to these users? Are they going to be using or doing payments that are going to be valuable? We don't take that lens. Our lens on one side is to say that we want to go to the entire population with payments. And two, anybody who's on the payments network is at least on the receiving side. So you're actually then creating another use case for you and me to send money by bringing everybody else who's not yet on payments there.
True.
Right? So that is one half. Payments itself is not done. And I think it's very important to think like that.
That's a
Otherwise
very important point you're making.
we will otherwise
because
rest on our laurels ki ye to
yes,
ho gaya.
yes. And
Right.
typically people think, okay, 50% of UPI, ab isse zyada kya hoga?
Yeah.
You know? So,
And then the other part is the second half of our journey. So we always had this consumer journey principle that we've gone with. It's called the send money, spend money, manage and grow.
Grow.
I think manage and grow, which goes towards true financial inclusion.
yes.
With increasing insurance penetration, which goes towards financial protection, to be able to increase lending, take lending and credit to the ones who truly deserve it on the back of payments data, and then to say that is there opportunity for the small set that does have disposable income? Can I help you make your money work for itself through investments? I think that's the next lens which will lead to financial inclusion and financial protection.
You know, I must ask you this. Some of your storied, sort of compatriots in the payment space have said that they would do this and not met with much success. And then they said that, sometimes the public does not understand our business model at all. Without mentioning names, you know who we are talking about. But as you venture into that ecosystem, that grow part of it, and you get into savers and investors, that ecosystem, how do you make it look like, PhonePe is not that complicated a business model? And I say this for your future journey in any.
No, I think it's a great question, right? The reason some of those become challenging and questionable is there is normally this approach, especially in the payments and fintech space, of saying that let's make, for example, lending the holy grail of monetization, and everything is basically then customer acquisition. It puts an immense amount of pressure to be able to lend fast and grow from there. Similarly, it could be something like investments. I think the approach that we've taken at PhonePe is to ensure that that is one of the many things that we offer our consumer. And by the way, it is not my job to try and cross-sell anything and everything to a customer until the customer is at a point in that life stage that they're ready for it. And I have to then think about the fact that how do I make a business of this philosophy and principle, and to say that then every use case, is there an opportunity to directly monetize that, however small, right? India is a country of extremely large users and very small customers is the myth. But if you look at saying that from every user and every user's interaction on the platform, if I'm driving value, can I either directly or indirectly charge distribution businesses? Everything that we distribute, whether it is from a recharge, bill payment, or everything else, is there an opportunity on the distribution side to make a small amount of money, which at scale makes massive sense as a business? I think that's the way to look at it. If you look at it like that, then everything and anything that you offer is making money, then the pressure is less on trying to actually monetize what is called as financial services on the back of payments versus saying that payments, distribution on top of payments and financial services surfaced at the right time to the right customer is the business model. I think that's the difference.
Very, very well articulated. Let's look at it slightly at a broader level, Rahul. Now, and we are at the startup summit, right? And you have been a startup, which is a storied startup. People have talked about PhonePe and the growth story. And you have morphed into now being a part of the Walmart ecosystem. How has that been as an entrepreneur? Now, you look at your entrepreneurial hat. What are the things, which have changed in your life? Because a startup is a different, ball game in that sense. How much has life changed ever since you became a part of the Walmart? Because in that sense, life has come a full circle, right?
I think Samir, myself, Burjan, even when we started PhonePe, we were, I would say, on the other side of the age spectrum typically, older with more gray hair. We really just wanted to build significantly. We've seen cycles where a lot of founders have had to spend a large amount of time raising money. It almost becomes the full-time job. And building sometimes takes a backseat. And many times building towards short-term goals so that you can actually raise money becomes the focus. We've seen that.
True.
So some of the decisions that we took very early on in PhonePe, even before Walmart came into the picture, and I say this because it will explain then how we adapted to the Walmart investment. We actually took a counter culture approach. We did not raise money. We actually, even before launching, decided to fold back into Flipkart. Many people don't know this. They think that we got incubated in Flipkart or it was by design. It wasn't actually. We had fully quit. We started PhonePe. We were looking to raise, but we realized that to build what we wanted to build, population, scale, payments, infrastructure, is a long game, requires patient capital and strong backing. And to play that game in a VC model, we preferred that can we actually play it in a different model, which was the strategic model. And we chose to do that, and that's how we folded back into Flipkart. And Walmart then came into Flipkart. So Walmart also has been amazing when it comes to being patient and having patient capital backing us. So in a way, the choice that we made got further solidified with Walmart coming in. So I think that aspect of VC-backed versus Walmart-backed, I think I prefer this model so that it gave us the luxury to actually build with a very long-term view. From an adjustment, I do believe that we are fairly unique in the Walmart ecosystem, which is largely on the retail side. So they are and have always remained extremely excited about us. We've gained, I would say, in a way where our maturity, given that we are in the regulated space, I think being extremely well governed, compliant, is a base expectation. But as we grew, I think Walmart and their practices helped us mature on that leg much faster. So all in all, we continue to enjoy the operating independence that we have as founders. We've had the luxury of having patient capital, and we've had a positivity in terms of our maturation on the governance front. So I think it's a win-win so far.
No, and you've really shown the way in that sense. And it's a very, very interesting thing which you say, because most people would go the other way, right? And you decided to fold back into Flipkart. So that really has helped the growth story itself. Now, but looking at it from an ecosystem point of view, Rahul, there is this whole point about patient capital, which you mentioned multiple times, and that's really the core. As you build out, the whole venture, there is this whole debate now about Indian patient capital and and the fact that we need more of Indian startups getting Indian patient capital. In fact, the Minister, Piyush Goyal, has also mentioned it more than once, even at our recent function at the Best CEOs. What are your thoughts on that? Because I think because there is an understanding of the ecosystem which probably works better. Bigger, industrial houses are now setting up family offices which are investing. So how do you look at this whole trend?
I think it's a very positive trend. Frankly, I think what the Honorable Minister said is very true. I think there is definitely a positive trend in terms of large traditional family houses looking at diversification through both direct investments from their corporate houses or through family offices into what we call as new age businesses. There is also an appreciation for some of these not being typically cash flow oriented, where
Right.
you're able to plow money and expect certain amount of fixed returns in an expected period of time, and some of these are bets that will take time to mature. Where I do believe that we can do better is, I think there's a further acceleration that is needed on taking big bets. They still seem to be more of followers than leaders. I think taking a view of leading big in some companies, only then you'll start seeing large big tech platforms emerge with full backing by Indian thing. To be fair, also, I think even from a government and policy perspective, we also have to take a look at, are we creating all the right ways in which these companies can create viable businesses and monetize much faster, right? And that is extremely important because otherwise, the big difference between foreign investors, they understand platform plays, they're able to actually take long views. Indian business houses typically take slightly shorter term views. But if we, as entrepreneurs, are allowed to create massive businesses with a higher degree of freedom than exists today, and I'll give you a classic example in our case as the payment industry, to be able to have a MDR that we can charge merchants for, which could become a direct business line on payments and don't have to look at any indirect monetization, you would see significantly more of Indian capital also having confidently backing us. So I think from the government and policy perspective also, we have to break the chains of saying that money has to be made for businesses to get built. It can be regulated in terms of how much, but it can't be that you can't make it at all.
A very valid point. And we can't let you go without talking about AI. You know, we just had a fantastic session with Anthropic. But yeah, I just wanted to find out, now that, you know, you're on a growth phase, the ecosystem is matured in a large scale. We can talk about the fintech ecosystem having matured. How are you particularly looking at AI and all that comes with it? What are the use cases which you see in the AI space for your in the fintech space?
Yeah, I can't top what Irina's already said, but I'll give you a view from PhonePe. I think we take a extremely, I would say, practical or applied approach to AI. The core principle that I operate with is that if we are going to be using this, let's use it where there is outsized impact available versus incrementality, because there is significant cost involved when you actually use AI and use AI for enablement. So it has to also come with significant impact, right? Anthropic makes a lot of money and it's on the back of all of us. So we also have to make sure that we're using it for maximum impact, right? So one principle is outsized impact, and two is directly related to enterprise value creation. Those are the two lenses that we take. Obviously, under that, I think the umbrella that is working really well for us is to drive up significant efficiency. Customer support is one of the areas to be able to actually have a significant amount of operations automation at a much faster rate. We've always been a company that's focused on a very high level of automation, but there is an opportunity to accelerate that significantly. On the engineering side of things, there is opportunity to increase productivity. I think in some cases it's significantly overplayed, saying that 50, 60, 70% at very large scales and large scale businesses. I think being a little cautious is good there, but we see efficiencies there. So I think right now we are leaning in hard where the impact is outsized. Enterprise value creation through efficiencies is very high. And we are investing in very specific use cases on the consumer front. For example, to be able to use a agentic voice-based approach to selling insurance, where it can be Q&A oriented, which is that buying decision is difficult in insurance, especially things like health insurance, where you can get significantly more Q&A oriented to reduce the cognitive overload that is there for the buying decision are the areas we are investing in from a consumer perspective. So that's the applied approach that we are taking.
So lots of headroom for growth for both the fintech ecosystem and for PhonePe. More power to you, Rahul, and great, all the very best for the future. Rahul Chari and PhonePe, ladies and gentlemen, a very big
Thank
hand.
you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Chari, for your valuable insights and perspectives. I'd like to request Mr. Sahil Shetty to please join Mrs. Saurav on stage to present the token of appreciation. Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand for Mr. Rahul Chari, the founder and CTO of PhonePe. Thank you very much for being here today with us.